Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji, we can start.
Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Gaurachandraya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Daivim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Gandhaya Tegirim Yat Kripa Tamaham Pande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunavada Dasyapta Desa. Hare Krishna. So thank you everyone for joining. We'll have a reading of this second verse of the first chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then we'll have a brief discussion and question answer session. I'll read the shloka, then you don't need to repeat. I mean, you can repeat, of course, but on mute. And then translation I'll read. Then Hare Krishna Prabhu can call out devotees for reading each paragraph. I might probably stop in between in case I want to say something in the middle of the paragraph. We'll close by 9:30. Unless there's something that is taking a longer time in discussion. Right. Shri Prabhupada. Dharma projhita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamastravastu shipadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunikrite Kimva Parerishvaraha Satye Hridya Parudhyade Prakritibhe Sushrushivistat Kshanat. Translation in purport based divine grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Completely rejecting all religious activities, projita, to reject, kicked out, to kick out, which are materially motivated. Kaitava dharma. Kaitava means there is a fruitive intention, so there is materially motivated. Kaitava and Madhu are one of the earliest Rakshasas or Asuras killed by Lord Vishnu. You can understand. So Kaitava means therefore that probably it is. There is a lot of greed and desire and all negative intentions. It's materially motivated. So this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth which is understandable with those devotees who are fully pure in heart. Fully pure is Paramanarmatsarana. Nirmatsarana means free of envy, 100% free of envy. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Shivadam is that which grants welfare. Vastavamatra vastu, the real substance, the real thing. And what does it do? Tapatrayon mulanam. It removes the threefold miseries, protects us from illusion. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Then what about, so then what else? This is the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam, and it is clearly Abhideya, how the study of Bhagavatam, what it provides us. And partly Prayodhana, The next verse is completely Prayojana. The first one was about Sambandha, right, predominantly. So this beautiful Bhagavatam compiled with the great sage Vyasa Deva in his maturity, Mahamuni Krute. Interestingly, it is Vyasa himself who is writing about himself. He is sufficient in itself for God realization. You don't need anything. What is the need of any other scripture? Kimma Parer Ishvaraha. Kimma Parer, what is beyond? And then Ishvara Sadhya Hridya Avarudyate Atra Kritibihi Shushushbit Takshana. So this Supreme Lord, as soon as one attentively and submissively, very important point to remember, attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam. So this is Abhidaya. We should therefore hear attentively and submissively the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Kritibi means those who are pious men, those who do it regularly. Shushurushibi tat kshanat. As soon as one attentively and submissively, as soon as tat kshanat, here's the message of Bhagavatam by this culture of knowledge. So that is Shushurushibi. Shushurushibi. This is a culture of knowledge, Anushilana. And the Lord is established within his heart. Hridya Varudyate. It becomes compact, it gets established within the heart. So let's get into the purport. You can start reading Hare Krishna Prabhu and then you can ask others.
Sure, Prabhuji.
Everybody can read one paragraph unless it's a very small paragraph, then you make them read another paragraph, even if it is very big.
Okay. Religion includes 4 primary subjects, namely pious activities, economic development, satisfaction of the senses, and finally liberation from material bondage. Irreligious life is a barbarous condition. Indeed, human life begins when religion begins. Eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating are the 4 principles of animal life. These are common both to animals and to human beings. But religion is the extra function of the human being. Without religion, human life is no better than animal life. Therefore, in human societies, there is some form of religion which aims at self-realization and which makes reference to man's eternal relationship with God.
So the point is that it's clearly mentioned that without religion, human life is no better than animal life. Dharmo hi desham adhiko vishesho. Dharmena hina pashuvissamana. Dharmena hina. Without dharma, religion, man is no different from animal. So therefore, in all human society, there is some kind of religion. Religion is essential. Although you have got demoniac communists like Karl Marx saying that religion is opiate of the masses. But it is very clear that even from primitive societies, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions in Chaitanya Shikshamrita that they are used to worshipping thunder deities and mountains and sea and rivers and trees and all that. So that there is an understanding of somebody more superior to us. So, and therefore, it is mentioned that dharma includes dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. This dharma, the first dharma, of course, is about religion in India. It includes pious activities, artha, kama, and moksha. So, at least we should become religious before becoming spiritual. Like I mentioned once, Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj once told one of his disciples that if I get a chance to teach anything else in ISKCON, I will teach now dharma. What is the right thing to do when, as per scriptures? Go ahead.
So I'll call out names one by one from the list. Deensna Prabhu, can you start?
Yes, Hare Krishna Dhanutanam.
You want a class tomorrow today, no? Evening or online? Or yet to decide?
Prabhuji, we did not send the message, but I think last night we decided to keep it online.
Okay.
Will it be possible in any case for you to come?
I can try. It's important. This is my core service.
Only thing is, like, we have taken some sponsorship for the fish prasadam. Now we'll have to postpone that.
No, I am okay. I am okay to come. But you just see that if devotees are not able to come because of rains, I don't mind even coming for one person. But the question is more in terms of you people decide. I'm fine. Don't worry that on my account because
it is continuously raining from since morning. I am just all the roads will be blocked. Water logging will be there.
yeah. So I might if I have to reach by 7 o'clock, I might have to leave by 5. Something like that. So we'll
even then reaching would be difficult, Prabhu. Even
sure.
even if you leave at 5. So
going back will be more difficult in the night. I mean,
Right.
yeah, driving will be.
Anyway, so you guys decide and let me know. I'm available. I'm available for service. Go ahead.
Okay. In the lower stages of human civilization, there is always competition to lord it over the material nature, or in other words, there is a continuous rivalry to satisfy the senses. Driven by such consciousness, man turns to religion. He thus performs pious activities or religious functions in order to gain something material. But if such material gains are obtainable in other ways, then so-called religion is neglected. This is the situation in modern civilization. Man is thriving economically, so at present he is not very interested in religion. Churches, mosques, or temples are now practically vacant. Men are more interested in factories, shops, and cinemas than in religious places, which were erected by their forefathers. This practically proves that religion is performed for some economic gains. Economic gains are needed for sense gratification. Often, when one is baffled in the pursuit of sense gratification, he takes to salvation and tries to become one with the Supreme Lord. Consequently, all these states are simply different types of sense gratification.
So, one wants to satisfy the senses by default. And with this consciousness, somebody turns to religion. So, therefore, dharma is used to get artha and using artha for kama, as was mentioned. So, but if you can get material sense gratification without dharma, then why will somebody take dharma? Who wants to get up at Mangalarati and chant 16 rounds and all that? If you're able to fulfill eating, mating, sleeping, defending, who's bothered? So, so-called religion is neglected. Even that so-called religion, which may get you all these things. But Prabhupada gives, of course, often the example of churches, mosques, etc. being empty. And in India, probably the biggest disservice was done by one of our former prime ministers who said that the factories are the modern temples of India. And so therefore it was practically not required for people to go to temples. And during Srila Prabhupada's time in the US, so many churches were empty. ISKCON got many temples which are originally cathedrals or churches. So dharma is used for artha and artha is used to fulfill kama. And when one doesn't get kama fulfilled, then on what you call on the rebound, as they say in the material world, they turn to moksha. They want to attain salvation. Salvation, very interesting thought, this came to my mind. Man is, when it comes to sense gratification, man is so engrossed that it is practically salivation, like a dog. And then when you don't get the salivation, the man tries to remove the I from the salivation. He wants to merge with the Supreme and become nothing or become one. So that I goes away and then becomes salvation. So it's finally, of course, Kaitava Dharma in that sense. Because the purpose for which one wants to get liberated is to escape the miseries of life. And in devotion, the very important conditionality or characteristic is moksha lagutakrit. Mama janmani janmanishware bhavatat bhaktiravaiti. Liberation is not so crucial. Going back to Gavada, is an incidental benefit of performing Krishna consciousness. Okay, so go to the next paragraph.
Bharuk Dwarkadish Prabhu, can you read?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. In the Vedas, the above mentioned 4 activities are prescribed in the regulative way, so that there will not be any undue competition for sense gratification. But Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental to all these sense gratificatory activities. It is purely transcendental literature, which can be understood only by the pure devotees of the Lord, who are transcendental to competitive sense gratification. In the material world, there is keen competition between animal and animal, man and man, community and community, nation and nation. But the devotees of the Lord rise above such competitions. They do not compete with the materialist because they are on the path back to Godhead, where life is eternal and blissful. Such transcendentalists are non-envious and pure in heart. In the material world, everyone is envious of everyone else, and therefore there is competition. But the transcendental devotees of the Lord are not only free from material envy, but are well-wishers of everyone. And they strive to establish a competition-less society with God in the center. The contemporary society's conception of a competition-less society is artificial, because in the socialist state, there is competition for the post of dictator. From the point of view of the Vedas, or from the point of view of common human activities, sense gratification is the basis of material life. There are 3 paths mentioned in the Vedas. One involves fruitive activities to gain promotion to better planets. Another involves worshipping different demigods for promotion to the planets of the demigods. And another involves realizing the absolute truth and his impersonal feature and becoming one with him.
So the important point is dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamasmi bharatarshava. Krishna says, I am that sense gratification which is in line with the principles of religion, which means regulated sense gratification is allowed. Even there, what is the regulation? The regulation is that I am performing this particular act for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And when one connects in that context, rather than ISKCON, the stress is being laid on samskaras all the time, especially grasthas are advised that husband and wife should chant 50 rounds before they decide to conceive a Krishna conscious progeny. So regulated sense gratification would ensure that there is not too much competition for sense gratification. But one takes one takes only as per one's quota and does it for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, whatever is the means of sense gratification or the activity of sense gratification. But when there is excessive desire and unregulated sense gratification, then there is a lot of competition. That is where resources are scarce and demands are very high, and therefore people are suffering. But it's clearly mentioned that Srimad Bhagavatam can only be understood by those who are Paramanirmatsranam, pure devotees. They are above this competitive sense gratification. They don't want to engage in sense gratification. More in terms of Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, their sense gratification, or their renunciation is also connecting every means of sense gratification to the Supreme Lord. So therefore, these devotees rise above this cutthroat competition. So it's like competition is to please Krishna in Raja. Everybody is trying to please Krishna. Who can serve more? But not at the expense of the others. It's win-win. It's not zero sum. Zero sum means I have to win for you to lose. So, but in the spiritual world, it is a win-win situation. Everybody is competing, but only for the pleasure of Krishna. To please Krishna, they are competing. Like recently, we had Bhadra Purnima marathon, Suna Bhagavad marathon, starting after Kartik. So it's this is transcendental competition for the pleasure of the Lord. At the end of the day, whoever distributes a book, Krishna is the winner. And we can only distribute the books. The selling part is done by Krishna, because nobody will give the money unless Krishna inspires them from within. We simply distribute the book to that person. So what does that mean? It just means that any competition, even in the spiritual world, is to please Krishna, and therefore devotees don't compete with each other for each other's sense gratification. I want to do better than somebody else. So the classic example is given of the birds encourage the bumblebee. Yes, please sing for Krishna. That's what they do. The bumblebee cannot even sing, but the beautiful singing birds, they encourage. And the communistic and socialistic concept is of dictatorship of the proletariat and of the masses, and there being no competition, because competition leads to greed and capitalism. That is the understanding. Therefore, everyone is equal, because they think. Because in China and Russia and North Korea, which are classic examples, and maybe Venezuela in the past, classic examples of communist countries, there is a post of dictator which is always vacant. The moment somebody kills somebody, they become dictator. Or even other countries like, say, Pakistan or Bangladesh. Bangladesh not so recently, but we know how people want to become dictators. Even if it's a socialistic state like Russia, North Korea, China, etc. Russia is not officially socialistic, but say China or North Korea, they're officially socialist, but they're still dictators. There's one person. It is not like the state is supreme. The person is supreme. What they say in Hindi is Tanashahi or Swechadipati. So, the basis of material life is sense gratification, Prabhupada says. So, whether it is Vedas, which are based on Traigunya Vishaya, the three modes, or from a common platform, everybody wants to enjoy the senses. But there are three paths mentioned in the Vedas. One is fruitive activities to gain promotion to better planets, which is Karma Ganda. Another involves worshipping demigods or promotion to planets of demigods, that is Upasana Ganda. Upasana Ganda may come across as for the Lord also, but it's primarily the demigods. And finally, it is what involves realizing the absolute truth and the impersonal feature and becoming one with him, which is called the Jnana Kanda. This is what is mentioned mostly in the Vedas. Now, you can go ahead. I think now I will not break in between. Everybody can simply read, complete the shloka, then I'll explain.
Okay, Devi Dasi Mataji, can you read, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam, Prabhuji.
You can read 2 paras because I think no, fine. This para is big.
Mataji, your voice is not coming.
The impersonal aspect of the absolute truth is not the highest. Prabhuji, is it audible, Prabhuji?
Yeah, very much.
Yes, Mataji.
About the impersonal feature is the Paramatma feature, and about that is the personal feature of the absolute truth, or Bhagavan. Srimad Bhagavatam gives information about the absolute truth in his personal feature. It is higher than impersonalist literatures and higher than the Gnana Kanda division of the Vedas. It is even higher than the Karma Kanda division and even higher than the Upasana Kanda division. Because it recommends the worship of the Supreme Personality Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. In the Karma Kanda, there is competition to reach heavenly planets for better sense gratification, and there is similar competition in the Gnana Kanda and Upasana Kanda. The Srimad Bhagavatam is superior to all these because it aims at the supreme truth, which is substance or the root of all categories. From Srimad Bhagavatam, one can come to know the substance as well as the categories. The substance is the absolute truth, the Supreme Lord, and all emanations or relative forms of energy. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Bharati Mataji.
I'll read this next para. It's a short para. Nothing is apart from the substance, but at the same time, the energies are different from the substance. This conception is not contradictory. Srimad Bhagavatam explicitly promulgates this simultaneously one and different philosophy of the Vedanta Sutra, which begins with the Janmadhyasya Sutra. This is Achintya Veda Veda. Yeah, Bharati Mataji.
Hare Krishna. This knowledge that the energy of the Lord is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord is an answer to the mental speculator's attempt to establish the energy as the absolute. When this knowledge is factually understood, one sees the conceptions of monism and dualism to be imperfect. Development of this transcendental consciousness grounded in the conception of simultaneously one and different leads one immediately to the stage of freedom from the threefold miseries. The threefold miseries are those miseries which arise from the mind and body, those miseries inflicted by other living beings, and those miseries arising from natural catastrophes over which one has no control. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the surrender of the devotee unto the absolute person. The devotee is fully aware that he is one with the absolute and at the same time in the eternal position of servant to the absolute. In the material conception, one falsely thinks himself the lord of all he serves, and therefore he is always troubled by the threefold miseries of life. But as soon as one comes to know his real position as transcendental servant, he at once becomes free from all miseries. As long as the living entity is trying to master material nature, there is no possibility of his becoming servant of the Supreme. Service to the Lord is rendered in pure consciousness of one's spiritual identity. By service, one is immediately freed from material encumbrances.
Thank you, Mataji. Next, Dr. Preeti Sharma, please, can you read? Mataji.
Okay, Prabhu. Over the above this, Srimad Bhagavatam is a personal commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Sri Vedavyasa. It was written.
What? Vedavyasa. Vyasadeva.
Vyasadeva. It was written in the maturity of the spiritual life through the mercy of Narada. Sri Vedavyasa, Vyasadeva is the authorized incarnation of Narayana, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, there is no question as to his authority. He is the author of all other Vedic literatures. Yet, he recommends the study of Srimad Bhagavatam above all others. In other Puranas, there are different methods set forth by which one can worship the demigods. But in the Bhagavatam, only the Supreme Lord is mentioned. The Supreme Lord is the total body, and the demigods are the different parts of the body. Consequently, by worshipping the Supreme Lord, one does not need to worship the demigods. The Supreme Lord becomes fixed in the heart of the devotee immediately. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended the Srimad Bhagavatam as the spotless Purana and distinguishes it from all other Puranas. The
What
proper
does Mahaprabhu describe Srimad Bhagavatam as?
spotless Purana.
What is the word he used? Amalam.
Amalam Purana.
Amala Purana. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam. Pramanam Amalam. Yeah.
Okay.
You can read the next para also.
The proper method for receiving the transcendental message is to hear it submissively. A challenging attitude cannot help one realize this transcendental message. One particular word is used herein for proper guidance. This word is surusu. Is it right, Prabhuji?
Shushrush.
Shush.
Shushrush.
Shush.
Shushrush. It's treatment. Like you're a doctor. Shushrush. Shushrush.
Okay.
Shushrush. Don't say whatever. We have to learn. Shushrush. Just break it up. Shush. Ru. Shu. Okay.
One must be anxious to hear this transcendental message. The desire to sincerely hear is the first qualification.
I think this particular paragraph, just post it on the group, Pritimanta. This particular paragraph is the most critical one. The desire to sincerely hear is the first qualification. Very important. So I want to welcome amongst us Geetima Mataji. Are you there? I saw your name.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
You're appearing as the Lord Himself. Wouldn't
Prabhuji,
you appear?
Prabhuji, I don't have my glasses on. Can you excuse me today, please?
No. We have our glasses on. We want to know who you are. You can only see the Lord's. You start your video.
So how do you want me to read, right?
No. Start your video. We want to know who you are. Nobody knows you.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Geetima Mataji.
And I'm in a very bad shape.
We're all in bad shape. Geetima Mataji is originally from the Damodar Desh, right? You're in Damodar Desh?
Actually, Prabhuji, we are originally from California.
Yeah.
We lived in California for 18 years. Then we went to Damodar Desh. And in Damodar Desh, we were very, very blessed to get association of extremely exalted devotee like Sri Valla Prabhuji and his team. And there is where I got introduced to Krishna consciousness.
Right. So Prabhuji and Mataji both, hopefully your good husband will also join.
Yeah, he is here, and let me get him. He just stepped out for a second.
Hiranmayana patrena satyasya apihita mukham.
I'm trying.
Don't
Prabhuji,
bother.
you have a class in the evening also.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are planning to.
There you are.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Please introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Danvat Pranam. I'm Anuj Garg. We just moved from Dubai to India. So we all, after 25 years, we have returned to India. So settling in Gurgaon. So hope we continue to stay for the rest of our lives.
We'll be happy. So we have got two devotees already on this group from Damodar Desh, Rati Manjari Mataji and Radha Madhavi Mataji, with their good husbands. I think, are you there, Matajis?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Pranam, Prabhuji.
Yes. So I don't know if, probably you don't know them, right? You might not have met.
No.
Damodar Desh is a huge congregation. Good.
No,
So,
no.
so you read this last paragraph, Anuj Prabhu, now that you come online.
Okay. So less fortunate persons are not at all interested in hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. The process is simple, but the application is difficult. Unfortunate people find enough time to hear idle social and political conversations, but when invited to attend a meeting of devotees to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, they suddenly become reluctant. Sometimes,
Does anyone remember an incident from Srila Prabhupada's book distribution? Srila Prabhupada's own book distribution. What event comes to mind? Anyone remember? When invited to attend a meeting of devotees to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, they suddenly become reluctant. Prabhupada wrote an article on in BTG about this himself. Who remembers? Why do people become reluctant? What do they say when you invite them to the temple or for a lecture?
They don't
We
have
are
time.
occupied.
They don't have time.
Busy. Yeah.
So what did Prabhupada write in BTG? A modern disease, no time. As an article. Hare Krishna Prabhu, maybe you can look it up. If you can find out that article, or at least the BTG which mentions that, post it on the group. So even among devotees, it's a great danger sometimes that we substitute sadhana with seva. We look very busy doing many activities and we skip reading and hearing. So that is very, very dangerous for our Krishna consciousness. So no time, meaning really speaking, no time. We have no time. We may leave any time. So we must be conscious of the fact that we have no time. Therefore, we should engage in this. That there is this famous verse in Bhagavatam, Ayur Bharati Vaipam Sam Uttanastanayanasa Yasyate Tatchanita Uttama Shloka Vartaya. Except those who are constantly filling their life with transcendental narrations of the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in the Vedas, that is called Uttama Shloka. Except those people, by the rising and setting of the sun, everybody else's life is extinguished. Every day, we are one day closer to death, except for those who are constantly hearing the Lord's glories. I think that should be sufficient motivation to study the Srimad Bhagavatam. So continue, Anuj Prabhu.
yes, sometimes professional readers of the Bhagavatam immediately plunge into the confidential topics of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, which they seemingly interpret as sex literature. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to be heard from the beginning. Those who are fit to assimilate this work are mentioned in this sloka. One becomes qualified to hear Srimad Bhagavatam after many pious deeds. The intelligent person with thoughtful discretion can be assured by the great sage Vyasadeva that he can realize the Supreme Personality directly by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam without undergoing the different stages of realization set forth in the Vedas. One can be lifted immediately to the position of
Paramahamsa.
Paramahamsa, simply by agreeing to receive this message. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So Paramahamsa, meaning Prabhupada uses the word swan-like devotees of the Lord. What does a swan do? What is the biggest characteristic of a swan? A swan can, it is told, separate milk and water. Doodh ka doodh, pani ka pani. So quite similarly, the Paramahamsas are those supreme devotees of the Lord who can see what is material and what is spiritual, and give up that which is material and accept only that which is spiritual for the pleasure of the Lord. So that is why we have to follow on the path of the Paramahamsas. And Parama Nirmatsaranam, Nirmatsara means competition, Nirmatsara means free of competition. Parama Nirmatsarana meaning they're completely free of envy or jealousy. Or in other words, they are not affected if somebody else is successful in Krishna consciousness or spiritual life. They want everybody to grow in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, they preach. Paramahamsa Jaya Darga Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Shtottara Sarasri Srimad Krishna Kripashi Murti Abhay Charana Aravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So Paramahamsa, Paramahamsa doesn't even have to travel. People will come to him to listen to the message of the Lord. So there is Paramahamsa and Parivrajagacharya, both. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'm going to go to the
Next sloka, Prabhuji.
yeah. Is there next sloka or there's still more left? Just check once.
And it's done, Prabhuji, this one. So,
Okay.
next
So
sloka.
what we'll do is we will complete the third verse also today, and from the next class, I will start giving a capsule of the chapter with question answers, and we will read select paragraphs, which I will say. Otherwise, or if everybody wants to just continue reading, I'm okay with that also. It'll help everybody go through, it will help everybody study the Bhagavatam once, in that sense. But otherwise, I can give a capsule also. So the first verse we said was about Sambandha, establishing relationship with the Lord, knowing who He is. So we understood that Janmadhyasya Yatha is the cause of all causes. And then second verse was about Abhideya, how to realize that relationship, which is attentive and submissive hearing about the Supreme Lord in the association of devotees who are completely free of envy. There is Abhideya, the process with which to realize the Lord. And when you do that, what is left? That is Prayojana. That is the result of all this, which is the fruit of the action. Prayojana, this Krishna Prema, and the relishing of the mellows that arise in devotion service. So let's get into the third verse, which I will read. You don't have to read, just have to listen. And I will read the translation, and then we can get to the purport. Nigamakalpataror galitam phalam Shukamukhadamritatrava samyutam Pipada bhagavatam rasamalayam Muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. There are many ways which can be read, but that is for another time. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam. Rasika, Bhavuka, Bhavuka, Bhuvi Bhavuka. Bhuvi means on earth. Bhavuka, they're expert and thoughtful. They have the right bhava, that is why they're Bhavuka. What do? Pipada Bhagavatam Rasamalayam, relish it. Why? Because it is the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literature. Nigama Kalpa, Kalpataru, Nigama Kalpataru. Just like a Kalpataru or a Kalpa Vriksha, desire fulfilling tree can fulfill all wishes. Similarly, the Vedas are Nigama Kalpataru. Vedas can fulfill through the various angas, the various limbs of the Vedic literature, one can have all kinds of attainments. And how did this come? Shuka Mukhad Amrita Drava Samyutam. So Shuka is parrot, just like a fruit, it's mentioned, becomes sweeter when a parrot pecks at it. Quite similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge. Nigama Kalpataror Galitam. Galitam is ripened. Phalam is fruit. So that will become Amrita Drava Samyutam. Nectarian juice of being tasted by the parrot, it's become much sweeter, which means having emanated from the limbs of Shukadeva Goswami, Bhagavatam is even sweeter. It is condensed. Amrita Drava, it's a nectarian taste. The word is mentioned is that it is perfect in all respects. Samyutam. Samyak Rupena Yutam. It's complete and perfect. So therefore you should drink this. Gunam. Therefore the fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including the liberated souls. So this is a very important point. Like in Gita it is mentioned, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasho Chatena Kankshati Samasarvesha Budesham Adbhaktir Labate Param. Being situated at the Brahma Buddha platform and one performs spiritual practices, then one reaches the level of devotion. It is the topmost level of devotion is attained by such people. Mad Bhaktir, Krishna says, Labate Param. So it is obtained. So later on we will also hear about Atma Ramascha Munayo, about the Atma Ramas, the liberated souls who are forever relishing within. So even those liberated souls, like Shukadeva Goswami was in his mother's womb for a long time. And Brahman realized he didn't want to come out into the material world, big bad world. But by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the lotus mouth of Srila Vyasadeva and his disciples, he was very clear that he wanted to relish the mellows of the Lord and attain devotion. So you can read out the purports.
Hare Krishna. Yugal Rasika Mataji, can you start? Read, please.
Pranam.
Pranamate.
The purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the previous shlokas, it has been definitely proved that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the sublime literature which surpasses all other Vedic literatures due to its transcendental qualities. It is transcendental to all mundane activities and mundane knowledge. In this shloka, it is stated that Srimad Bhagavatam is not only a superior literature, but is the ripened fruit of all Vedic literatures. In other words, it is the cream of all Vedic knowledge. Considering all this, patient and submissive hearing is definitely essential. With great respect and attention, one should receive the message and lessons imparted by the Srimad Bhagavatam.
So, Vandamui Savadana Mate. Great respect and attention. When Bhagavatam should be approached with respect and attention. So, person Bhagavata, who is the Guru, is to be approached with attention. Vandamui Savadana Mate, we say. So, the book Bhagavatam also, with great respect and attention. Like sometimes even professional reciters, they give Bhagavad Katha, there is a Bhagavad Puja given, conducted. People carry with Purna Kumbhas, the Bhagavatam is carried. They say Bhagavat Ji, that's how they say. It is so respected, so wonderfully respected that they keep it nicely wrapped and offer puja and all that. But the problem is, it should not just be kept wrapped. It should be opened up, read, relished, and imparted to others as well. That is why Bhagavatam is to be read and relished. Go ahead. Who has to read?
Veena Pani Mataji, can you go ahead?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Mataji.
Thank you. The Vedas are compared to the desire tree because they contain all things knowable by man. They deal with mundane necessities as well as spiritual realization. The Vedas contain regulated principles of knowledge covering social, political, religious, economic, military, medicinal, chemical, physical, and metaphysical subject matter. And all that may be necessary to keep the body and soul together. Above and beyond all this are specific directions for spiritual realization. Regulated knowledge involves a gradual raising of the living entity to the spiritual platform. And the highest spiritual realization is knowledge that the personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all spiritual tastes or rasas. Rasas. Yes. Thanks. Sorry, bro.
Rasa. So
Rasa.
the Taittiriya Upanishad mentions Raso Vaisaha is a source of all rasas. Rasagga Kevayam Labdvanandi Bhavati. So everything comes from him. All the rasas emanate from him. Next.
Swadhyay Prabhuji, can you read please?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Do you have office today?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, but you're well dressed for the class. So.
I have just dropped my child and came back. That's why I was late in the class. Thank you, Prabhu. Every living entity, beginning from Brahma, the firstborn living being within the material world, down to insignificant ant, desire to release some sort of taste derived from sense perceptions. These sensual pleasures are technically called rasas. Such rasas are different varieties. In the revealed scriptures, the following 12 varieties of rasas are enumerated. Raudra, anger. 2. Adbhuta, wonder. 3. Sringara, conjugal love. 4. Hasya, comedy. 5. Veera, chivalry. Daya, mercy. 7. Dasya, servitorship. 8. Sakya, fraternity. 9. Bhayaka, horror. 10. Vipata, 11. Shanta. 12. Vatsalya, parenthood. Thank you, Sri.
So there may be some bit of overlap, it may seem, but between the 5 primary rasas, and these are the secondary rasas, but they also contain. I really am trying to find out how they could be different, and the key difference is that Vatsalya is not necessarily an exchange of rasa with the Supreme Lord. Vatsalya can be with anybody. Dasya can be towards anyone. Sakya can be towards anyone. But when we say the primary rasa, Shandam, Dasyam, Vatsalyam, Sakyam, Sakyam, Vatsalyam, Mangalam, very clear that somebody's child is busy speaking. Is that the coordinators?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So these are the secondary rasas, so to say, and one might want to learn this. You can give darshan of your kid to everyone. So say Hare Krishna.
Krishna bolo. Hare Krishna bolo.
Suddenly,
She's not able to listen, Prabhuji, anyways, because whatever.
Okay, good. Go ahead to the next person.
Sheena Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Namaste. The sum total of all these rasas is called affection or love. Primarily, such signs of love are manifested in adoration, service, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. And when these five are absent, love is present indirectly in anger, wonder, comedy, chivalry, fear,
Chivalry,
shock,
chivalry,
and
matlab veera.
fear, shock, and so on. For example, when a man is in love with a woman, the rasa is called conjugal love. But when such love affairs are distributed, there may be disturbed, there may be wonder, anger, shock, or even horror. Sometimes love affairs between two persons culminate in ghastly murder scenes. Such rasas are displayed between man and between animal and animal. There is no possibility of an exchange or rasa between a man and animal or between a man and any other species of living beings within the material world. The rasas are exchanged between members of the same species, but as far as the spirit souls are concerned, they are one qualitatively with the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the rasas were originally exchanged between the spiritual living being and the spiritual fool. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual exchange or rasa is fully exhibited in spiritual existence between living beings and the Supreme Lord. Thank
You can read the next paragraph, just one line.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is therefore described in the Shruti mantras, Vedic hymns, or the fountainhead or all rasas. When one associates
as the fountainhead of all rasas.
When one associates with the Supreme Lord and exchanges one's constitutional rasa with the Lord, then the living beings is actually happy.
Okay, so these other minor rasas that are given, the 7 minor rasas, they could be exchanged with other entities as well. There, Prabhupada mentions that only between the same species can there be such exchange. But later on in Srimad Bhagavatam, we will see how in Kali Yuga, it gets worse. People even start establishing relationship with animals. It's called bestiality. So, and a milder form of that is that people keeping pets, and you go to apps like Instagram now, there will be a whole series of videos on how a Chihuahua or a Rottweiler or a Pomeranian or a Dachshund or a Golden Retriever, there are specific set of videos for those, how they show love and how their various antics, they're all being showcased. So this is all an exercise of futile exchange of rasas with animals. But really, rasas can be exchanged between human beings, but even more so, actually, they should be exchanged with the Supreme Lord because they are his parts and parcel. So their exchange of rasas is fine. So that is Madhurya, Vatsalya, Sakya, and all that. And it's mentioned here, adoration. Adoration is Aishwarya or Shanta, Aishwarya Bhava, mixed with opulence, and awe and reverence at the Lord. Go ahead. Next.
Rati Manjari Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you, Prabhuji. These Shruti mantras indicate that every living being has its constitutional position, which is endowed with a particular type of rasa
to be exchanged with the personality of Godhead. In the liberated condition only, this primary rasa is experienced in full. In the material existence, the rasa is experienced in the perverted form, which is temporary, and thus the rasas of the material world are exhibited in the material form of Raudra, anger, and so on.
Read one more time.
Therefore, one who attains full knowledge of these different rasas, which are the basic principles of activities, can understand the false representations of the original rasas, which are reflected in the material world. The learned scholar seeks to relish the real rasa in the spiritual form. In the beginning, he desires to become one with the Supreme. Thus, less intelligent transcendentalists cannot go beyond this conception of becoming one with the spirit whole without knowing of the different rasas. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So we cannot surpass Kaivalya desire to merge with the Supreme till we understand that there are different rasas of exchange with the Supreme Lord, and that is far superior to the mundane rasa that is being exchanged in the day-to-day life. So that's why it's mentioned the material existence, the rasa is experienced in a perverted form, which is temporary. And so that is what is mentioned about those 7 rasas. Rasa also fundamentally means the constitutional exchange of emotion with the Supreme Lord. Somebody is situated at Shanta platform or Dasya platform, will have accordingly their rasa with the Supreme Lord. Okay, next. How much more is there? How much more is there?
One, 2 big ones and 3 small ones.
Okay.
Correction from the Bhagavatam.
Namaste.
In this shloka, it is definitely stated that spiritual rasa, which is relished even in the liberated state, can be experienced in the literature of Srimad Bhagavatam due to its being the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. By submissively hearing this transcendental literature, one can attain the full pleasure of his heart's desire. But one must be very careful to hear the message from the right source. Srimad Bhagavatam is exactly received from the right source. It was brought by Narad Muni from the spiritual world and given to his disciple Sri Vyasadeva. The later, in turn, delivered the message to his son Sri Shukadev Goswami, and Sri Shukadev Goswami delivered this message to Maharaj Parikshit just 7 days before the king's death. Sri Shukadev Goswami was liberated soul from his very birth. He was liberated even the womb of his mother, and he did not undergo any sort of spiritual training after his birth. At birth, no one is qualified, neither in the mundane nor in the spiritual sense. But Sri Shukadev Goswami, due to his being a perfectly liberated soul, did not have to undergo an evolutionary process for spiritual realization. Yet, despite his being a completely liberated person situated in the transcendental position above the 3 material modes, he was attracted to this transcendental rasa of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is adored by liberated souls who sing Vedic hymns. The Supreme Lord's pastimes are more attractive to liberated souls than to mundane people. He is of necessity not impersonal because it is only possible to carry on a transcendental rasa with a person.
That's the part we discussed earlier, that people try to establish all kind of relationship with everyone. People keep pets and people even start keeping robots for exchange of relationships or affection. Like Michael Jackson, who's no longer there, a famous rock singer long back, he had a pet python. How you can have a pet python and a pet chimpanzee? Because he was feeling lonely. So this is the point to understand, that there should be exchange of rasa always. There will be, because we are jivas. Jivas will need to have relationships, and the best way to dovetail this is to connect to the Supreme Lord. Yeah.
Radhika Bhav Mataji.
She just read, no?
She's already Radhanaga Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Prabhuji.
You read the next two paras. This and next.
Yeah. In Sanskrit, the parrot is also known as shuka. When a ripened fruit is cut by the red beaks of such birds, its sweet flavor is enhanced. The Vedic fruit, which is mature and ripe in knowledge, is known through spoken through the lips of Srila Shukadev Goswami, who is compared to the parrot not for his ability to recite the Bhagavatam exactly as he heard it from his learned father, but for his ability to present the work in a manner that would appeal to all classes of men. The
Srila
subject
Prabhupada used to say, present my purports in your words. Go ahead.
Yeah. Prabhuji, I lost it.
The subject matter is so presented through the lips.
Yeah. The subject matter is so presented through the lips of Srila Shukadev Goswami that any sincere listener that hears submissively can at once relish transcendental tastes, which are distinct from perverted tastes of material world. The ripened food is not dropped all of a sudden from the highest planet of Krishna Loka. Rather, it has come down carefully through the chain of disciplic succession without change or disturbance. Foolish people who are not in transcendental disciplic succession commit great blunders by trying to understand the greatest transcendental rasa, known as the rasa dance, without falling in the footsteps rasa dance without falling in the footsteps of Shukadev Goswami, who presents the fruit very carefully by stages of transcendental realization. One should be intelligent enough to know the position of Srimad Bhagavatam by considering personalities like Shukadev Goswami, who deals with the subject so carefully. This process of disciplic succession of Bhagavat school suggests that in the future also, Srimad Bhagavatam has to be understood from a person who is factually a representative of Srila Shukadev Goswami. A professional man who makes a business out of reciting the Bhagavatam illegally is certainly not a representative of Shukadev Goswami. Such a man's business is only to earn his livelihood. Therefore, one should refrain from hearing the lectures of such professional men. Such men usually go to the most confidential part of the literature without undergoing the gradual process of understanding this grave subject. They usually plunge into the subject matter of the rasa dance, which is misunderstood by the foolish class of men. Some of them take this to be immoral, while others try to cover it up by their own stupid interpretations. They have no desire to follow in the footsteps of Srila Shukadev Goswami.
Therefore, one should conclude, therefore, that the serious student of the rasa should receive the message of Bhagavatam in the chain of disciplic succession from Srila Shukadev Goswami, who describes the Bhagavatam from its very beginning, and not whimsically to satisfy the mundane who has very little knowledge in transcendental science. There may be people who know lots of Sanskrit shlokas, may speak very nice poetic language, but they don't have knowledge of the transcendental science. It is only possible to hear, possible if you hear from the mouths of somebody who has the realization, who has come through the chain of this succession, and who is purified is eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. We have discussed this earlier. Such a person is a true follower of Sukadeva Goswami. Only he can present the signs of Srimad Bhagavatam appropriately. And Srimad Bhagavatam is so carefully presented that a sincere and serious person can at once enjoy the ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge simply by drinking the nectarian juice to the mouth of Sukadeva Goswami or his bona fide representative. Ma Sundari Mataji, are you there?
Hare Krishna.
I want you to find out from Prabhupada's purport. You can check the Vedabase. What is the definition of sincere and what is the definition of serious?
Yes, Prabhuji.
In Prabhupada's words, and then put it in the group.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. You're a Bhakti Shastri, no?
Yes, Prabhuji.
How long have you been initiated?
Prabhuji, 2015.
I think you can take permission from whoever is your congregation head, and you should apply for Brahmin initiation.
Yes, Prabhuji.
I was just remembering today because the application process is going on.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so we'll conclude the reading part today. And I think what I will do is next week, we will try and summarize the first 3 shlokas, which are very, very critical. I'll summarize the first 3 shlokas. And from the week after that onwards, Hare Krishna Prabhu and everyone, Dinaswam Prabhu, everyone else, what I'm planning is that I'll be presenting the chapter per se to you with specific purpose we can read. But all of you can decide whether that's the way you want, or would you like that we continue reading like this and then I describe. What would you prefer? Though how many of you think that we should read and then I explain? Go through the Bhagavatam and then I'll explain. Just raise your hand. Electronic hand. Okay. You counting, Hare Krishna?
Yes, Prabhuji.
And how many would like me to just give a capsule of each chapter every week?
The hands keep on changing. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 for the first option.
I think Prabhuji, the second option was also announced. So I
Yeah.
Right. So option
Okay,
1.
For one last, no, just lower your hand, everyone. So we have a total of 19 people, 18 excluding me. Okay, so out of 18 people, please raise your hands whoever wants the current format to continue.
Eight.
Okay. So that means there are 10 people who would prefer.
One more hand just raised, so and got back. So otherwise it would have been 50-50.
What we'll do is, in any case, next week I'll give a capsule of the first 3 shlokas, and then we decide. In the meantime, we can all discuss or whatever, deliberate. And I'm not pushing this way or the other. I'm okay with both formats. Okay.
So you one shloka by shloka will take a lot of time.
Yeah. No, unless we convert in a Bhagavatam study group, and what we do is just study the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's a choice that all of you have to exercise. I don't have a problem either ways. I'm here to serve. Both ways is fine by me.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. If you the capsule overview of the Bhagavatam chapter by chapter, that will actually improve the interest in reading Bhagavatam further. So I think it will be.
You're already studying for your Bhakti Vaibhav degree.
No, but I'm benefiting by this also because you are explaining it very nicely. So I would suggest, this is my understanding.
Okay, good. We'll think through one.